Welcome back to Tony's Teaching Tips videos. Today's topic is learning objectives. I'm Tony Sindelar, a higher education instructional designer with many years of experience partnering with faculty and subject matter experts to create and improve teaching and learning. So, what are learning objectives? Why are we even talking about them? The concept of learning objective builds off of my previous videos on backward design and alignment. To start off with, learning objectives are the statements that you make about whatever learning activity is that you're creating and what it intends to accomplish. You'll frequently see learning objective language that takes the form of, by the completion of this course, students will be able to something. With the goal there that these are objectives that throughout, however long that course takes, students who are successful in the course will be successful at those things that they then might apply in a various profession, in a various context, in a wide range of things, depending on the nature of the course. The audience for learning objectives are two. There's your learners, the students who need to be able to understand what are you asking of them, what are your goals for them, what do you need them to do, as well as people within the educational institution. So accreditors, your academic peers, curriculum designers, your dean, department head, people like that who need to know how your course and what you're doing fits into the larger scheme of the curriculum, the program, maybe even the whole institution that's working together. Learning objectives fit with backwards design in terms of thinking about what that goal is for your teaching. With goals, I tend to ask you to think big and broad and not worry too much about the language. You can be kind of fuzzy and think about what your course means to you. But when we get to the level of dealing with learning objectives, you want to be going a lot further in terms of being specific and being measurable and using language that will make sense to your students. You might be crafting learning objectives for a course, a unit, even just a single class session. And you've probably seen learning objectives before. They frequently show up on places like course syllabi. Sometimes you'll even see them on the first page of a manual for a training or the first slide of somebody giving some kind of certification-based training. They're particularly popular in fields where accreditation is a big deal. Sometimes learning objectives have different names, course objectives, course goals, and they may or may not fall into all of these standards of what a good learning objective is. You'll also see lots of learning objectives out there that maybe aren't up to the standards of what we'd like as far as learning objectives go. So, what goes into a good learning objective? The common mnemonic that I've always seen is A, B, C, D. A for audience, who is the objective for? Usually it's your students. B, behavior, what do they need to be able to do? This is often the verb part of the objective. Condition, under what circumstances do they need to be able to do the thing that you just defined in behavior? And then degree, how much or what does success look like? So here's an example learning objective. Students attending the smoking cessation program will be able to identify the 5 main effects of smoking on one's health. And here's which parts correspond to the ABCD. Now, a useful tool when you're creating your first learning objectives, or even just any learning objectives at any point in your academic career, is Bloom's taxonomy. You may have heard this mentioned before. You may have even seen this diagram in a training or workshop. And this scheme looks at levels of learning across 6 different categories. They're frequently divided into higher order versus lower order thinking skills. You'll sometimes see the acronyms HOT, higher order thinking, LOT, lower order thinking. And these can be a good way of thinking about what is it we're really trying to get our students at. And you can frequently find lists of verbs that correspond to the various levels of Bloom's taxonomy. Now, it's important to think about what are you actually trying to get at with your learning objectives. I often work with people who are really struggling to define what they need their learners to accomplish, and they know in their heart or in their mind, but they're having trouble putting it into language that's going to make sense to their learner. But that struggle can be useful. Sometimes that struggle of figuring out what do I really need my learners to do? What actually matters? What's the point of this course? Will help you figure out what do you value and what do you consider important in your teaching, and then put that into language for your students. I'll caution you, the most common kind of pitfall I find people stumbling into right off the bat is using verbs like know, understand, and appreciate. understand and appreciate are particularly fuzzy. Like, yeah, we want our students to appreciate things, we want our students to understand things, but they're not really measurable, and they can kind of lose meaning and not be the most useful verbs to use in learning objectives. So look for verbs that are going to be kind of more action oriented, and things that you could imagine knowing what does it look like for a student to have successfully met that objective versus needing more help and guidance to get to that point. That idea that your learning objectives are specific and measurable is particularly important. I think that's all I want to say for now to try and keep this short. I hope this was a helpful, condensed overview of what goes into crafting good learning objectives. Visit Tony'sTeachingTips.com for more ideas and resources related to instructional design and teaching. Bye for now.